Hello everyone, in today's video, join us as we step foot onto the Dark Continent to explore one of the most unstable and dangerous countries in the world today. Have you ever heard of the name Somalia? Located in the Horn of Africa, Somalia is infamous for its poverty, internal conflicts, ongoing territorial disputes, and ruthless and fearsome pirates. However, like every other country in the world, Somalia also has its own unique characteristics of people and culture. And in today's video, we will together delve into the detailed story of the nation of Somalia. In terms of its location, Somalia is a country located in the Horn of Africa region, with an area of approximately 246,330 square miles, equivalent to 638,000 square kilometers, and is home to about 17 million people. The territory of this nation is bordered by Djibouti, Ethiopia, and Kenya to the west, while the east and north are bounded by the Indian Ocean. Looking at the map, you will notice that the border between Somalia and Ethiopia is marked by dashed lines, which are quite different from the borders with other neighboring countries. This is the result of past colonial regimes, which historically divided borders in an inconsistent manner, compounded by the lack of a stable government to negotiate border issues. Consequently, the border between the two countries remains somewhat ambiguous, with many Somali communities still residing along the border in Ethiopian and Kenyan territories. Due to Somalia's location in arid and semi-arid regions, the land here is very dry and gradually decreases in altitude from north to south. The northern part of Somalia features high mountainous terrain, with average elevations ranging from about 3,280 to 6,560 feet above sea level. The highest point is Mount Shimber-Baris in the Karkar Range, reaching an elevation of 8,071 feet above sea level, making it the highest point in Somalia. As this region is primarily composed of limestone and young basalt rock, rivers only flow seasonally, resulting in a relatively sparse vegetation cover, mainly consisting of shrubs. In the northern part of the Karkar Range, vegetation is more abundant, although the terrain in this area is quite rugged, sloping down to a semi-desert plain along the coast of the Gulf of Aden. In the drier northeastern regions, Indian frankincense and medicinal plants are characteristic vegetation. In the western central part of Somalia lies a significant portion of the Somali Plateau, which is also a dry plateau but relatively flat, with average elevations ranging from about 1,640 to 3,280 feet above sea level. To the north of the Somali Plateau is a region referred to as the Hot, historically extending into Ethiopian territory, covering an area of about 46,000 square miles, equivalent to 119,000 square kilometers, and characterized by a layer of distinctive red sand. The vegetation here mainly consists of bushes, with many acacia species and other plants reaching heights of 20 to 33 feet. Additionally, this area is home to giant termite mounds reaching up to 23 feet, as well as various wildlife species such as the Somali leopard, spotted hyena, or Somali ostrich. On the southeastern coastal plains of the country lies the newest alluvial plain of Somalia. This area is within the watershed of two main rivers, the Juba and the Shabeelle. Since both rivers originate from the mountains of Ethiopia, they provide relatively abundant water resources, facilitating agricultural development and livelihoods for the people. Because Somalia is located near the equator, its climate is predominantly hot throughout the year, with little seasonal variation. The average annual temperature typically ranges from around 21 to 38 degrees Celsius, sometimes exceeding 45 degrees Celsius. Unlike the climates of most countries at similar latitudes, Somalia receives an average annual rainfall of only about 430 millimeters. And there is a clear north-south differentiation. While the northeastern region of the country receives less than $100 millimeter of rainfall annually, the western and southwestern parts of Somalia experience significant precipitation, receiving around 610 millimeters per year. Administratively, this is a federal republic. Before the Civil War, this country was divided into 18 regions. But in reality, the northern region of Somalia is under the control of independent governments, including Somaliland, Puntland, and Galmudug. As for the south, nominally under the control of the federal government, but in reality, it is controlled by extremist Islamist rebel forces. The capital of Somalia is Mogadishu, located in the southeastern coastal region of the country. This city of over 2.4 million people was once the bustling trading hub of East Africa before being ravaged for a long time. While now under the control of the current government, and relatively safer than some other areas in Somalia, Mogadishu remains vulnerable to terrorist attacks at any time. Since 2017, the city has remained extremely dangerous and almost suicidal for independent travelers. Armed warlords and extremist Islamic factions still operate in Mogadishu, with foreigners often being their prime targets. Not only government offices and headquarters, but even hotels are frequent targets of attacks. If you must venture out, it's advisable to travel with armed security personnel in armored vehicles. So unless absolutely necessary, it's best not to risk your life by setting foot in Mogadishu. Being the economic center of Somalia and a vital trading hub, Mogadishu is also home to the country's largest seaport, the Mogadishu International Seaport. However, in medieval times, Mogadishu's port was very small, and it wasn't until the Italians arrived in 1890 that the first upgrades were made, turning it into a modern port. Since then, Mogadishu has become Somalia's most important seaport and one of the largest ports in East Africa. Earlier, we mentioned that in the northern region of Somalia, there are several independent governments in control, including Somaliland. This territory declared independence from the rest of Somalia in May 1991. Yet neither the federal government of Somalia nor many other nations or international organizations recognize its sovereignty. Covering an area of 53,128 square miles, equivalent to 137,600 square kilometers, with a population of 5 million in 2018. Somaliland's GDP in 2017 was approximately $2.57 billion, with a per capita GDP of around 516 USD. Somaliland has its own currency, military, passports, and conducts its own elections. Unlike southern Somalia, which is plagued by conflict, Somaliland has focused its efforts on building essential infrastructure and maintaining a stable economy. Currently, besides remittances, Somaliland relies primarily on agriculture, with livestock being a major export to Gulf countries and neighboring nations such as Djibouti and Ethiopia. The tourism sector in Somaliland is also showing signs of development. Although most visitors are either government or non-governmental organization employees stationed there. One must-see attraction in Somaliland is the Las Gil area, a complex of cave paintings and rock shelters located near the capital, Hargeisa. It is considered the birthplace of primitive rock art, featuring unique cave paintings remarkably well preserved. These paintings offer a profound glimpse into life in Somalia over 5,000 years ago, depicting detailed scenes of antelopes, livestock, giraffes, and archers. A group of local men residing in the caves safeguard these sacred paintings. Besides their protective role, they occasionally serve as guides when tourists visit. Somalia's economy. There aren't many official statistics from the Somali government regarding its economy. Some international organizations estimate the country's GDP in 2021 at $7.3 billion, with a per capita GDP of only 430 USD. Consequently, Somalia is considered one of the poorest countries in the world. Despite considerable fluctuations, Somalia's informal economy is deemed relatively robust, mainly reliant on livestock, remittances, and international aid. With assistance from the Somali diaspora, mobile phone companies, internet cafes, and radio stations have been established. In 2004, a new Coca-Cola bottling plant opened in Mogadishu, signaling increased business confidence. Additionally, Somali diaspora remittances bring in approximately $2 billion to be deposited in banks back home. Furthermore, with abundant natural resources such as oil, uranium, natural gas, iron ore, and tin, Somalia is also a promising target for world powers. However, insecurity, weak governance, and climate change remain significant barriers to Somalia's escape from its current cycle of poverty. Before descending into war and poverty, Somalia was once a prosperous land in Africa. Since ancient times, Somalia has been a crucial center of trade for the rest of the world. Their sailors and merchants were renowned suppliers of frankincense, myrrh, and spices, considered luxury goods in ancient Egypt. During the Middle Ages, powerful empires within Somalia dominated regional trade, such as the Ajuran Kingdom, the Adal Kingdom, and the Galati Kingdom. However, following the Berlin Conference at the end of the 19th century, European powers like Italy and Britain progressively invaded and occupied most of the Muslim kingdoms in Somalia, initiating a prolonged period of darkness that persists in Somalia to this day. Tribal territories were amalgamated into two colonies, known as British Somaliland and Italian Somaliland. British Somaliland later became a protectorate, while Italian-controlled southern Somalia became a trusteeship. In 1960, these two territories united to form the Republic of Somalia. Subsequently, in 1969, the Somali Democratic Republic under the authoritarian rule of Siad Barre was established. However, Barre's brutal repression in conflicts in the northern part of the country led to increasingly fierce internal strife among the people. As a result, in 1991, the Somali Civil War erupted, followed by the declaration of independence by Somaliland in the northwest. From the 2000s to 2012, Somalia, under transitional federal government, faced escalating armed violence. In August 2012, an interim constitution was passed, leading to the formation of the current federal government of Somalia. However, weak governance, coupled with the protracted civil war against the Islamist militant group Al-Shabaab, has led to the current complex difficulties in Somalia. Somalia, the land of pirates. Amidst instability and ineffective governance, coupled with its geographical location in the Horn of Africa, has fostered the flourishing of piracy activities. Since the onset of civil war, illegal fishing vessels in Somali waters have openly operated, estimated to steal around $300 million worth of marine resources annually, plunging Somali people into unemployment. Additionally, Somalia's waters are polluted by hazardous waste from foreign vessels. Dispossessed of income, locals quickly realized they could earn by seizing ships traversing from Asia and the Gulf to the Mediterranean via the Suez Canal. Somali piracy mainly occurs during daylight hours, with at least 2 small high-speed skiffs aided by motherships, including seized fishing and merchant vessels, expanding their reach as far as the Indian Ocean. They often approach targets from the side or rear, using rocket-propelled grenade, RPG, and rifles to coerce vessel operators to reduce speed, facilitating their boarding. Subsequently, they will attempt to take control of the ship's command bridge and contact the ship's owner or bank. Once contact is made, they transfer negotiation duties to an onshore negotiator around Somalia. Negotiators typically possess good English proficiency and financial knowledge, aiming to secure a hefty ransom for the pirates. During these negotiations, pirates hold the crew as hostages. Negotiations can often take hours, even days. Upon reaching an agreement, a helicopter flies overhead and drops a bundle of cash onto the ship's deck. After receiving the ransom, Somali pirates call for their mothership to collect them, attempting to flee the scene as quickly as possible, discarding all evidence at sea. However, fishing vessels or small cargo ships are often retained by Somali pirates to reinforce their resources. Estimates suggest that during a successful attack, at the peak of the piracy season, an individual can earn up to $30,000. Between 2008 and 2011 alone, around $500 million USD was spent on ransom payments and the release of captured vessels and crews, causing global economic losses of up to $7 billion. Thus, piracy swiftly became the most favored profession in Somalia. Among these were both civilians and criminals, some even establishing pirate havens with tacit agreements from authorities. Therefore, it's not surprising that wealthy warlords and businessmen in Somalia decided to heavily invest to turn piracy into a lucrative industry. Funding for pirate activities is conducted on a stock exchange in Harare, where investors buy and sell shares for upcoming attacks. In essence, it operates much like a typical stock exchange, but with the difference that individuals can contribute anything from cash to supplies, or even themselves. Upon ransom receipt, pirates retain 30%, with the remainder divided among investors, warlords. The earnings enable pirates to reinvest in small businesses in Somalia or neighboring countries, as well as upgrade equipment for future attacks. Thanks to the success of piracy, Harare, once a poor village, has become affluent with sturdy homes and a line of luxury cars. With such robust backing, 21st century pirates are predominantly seasoned warriors equipped with modern weaponry and state-of-the-art vessels, including high-speed boats. They also utilize the internet to monitor maritime companies, ascertain cargo values, vessel worth, crew numbers, enabling them to strategize attacks and ransom demands. Since 2007, the frequency and complexity of attacks have increased during this period, as well as the size of targeted vessels. Large cargo ships, oil tankers, and chemical carriers on international voyages have become attractive targets for Somali pirates, alongside smaller fishing vessels. For example, in 2009, Somali pirates abducted 24 Ukrainian crew members aboard the Ariana. The vessel was released on December 10, 2009, after a ransom of nearly $3 million was paid. Somali piracy has instilled fear both domestically and internationally. with transportation and cargo insurance costs skyrocketing as Somali pirates continuously attack transport vessels, targeting relief ships and seizing tens of thousands of tons of food aid. Moreover, piracy has made fishing in the waters of Somalia and the Indian Ocean difficult as vessels passing through these areas fear attack. However, security firms and arms manufacturers have seen significant profits from piracy. Generally, the situation of Somali piracy nowadays is not as active as it used to be, especially with the increasing efforts in anti-piracy activities. However, with ongoing internal conflicts, persistent poverty, and weak governance yet to be fully addressed, the world still has to spend billions of dollars to protect its assets from Somali pirates. That was some information about Somalia, the land of pirates. How do you feel about this country? Leave your comments below this video. Goodbye and see you in the next videos.